Nobody had ever seen a female as tough and as overtly sexual as Lil Kim.
Lil Kim, the Brooklyn-born MC who redefined the image of women in the world of hip-hop, overcoming poverty and homelessness to become one of the world's most promising young stars.
You can accomplish anything that you want because I did it, and I'm straight a child of the ghetto.
She made herself famous through her hustle and through her connections and through her talent.
Going mainstream was a pretty big ambition for a little girl with a dirty mouth, but somehow she was pulling it off.
But sometimes, the higher you reach, the further you have to fall.
She kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper in trouble.
When a rivalry with another rapper gets too real and shots are fired, Kim goes from the big time to the big house.
Somebody got shot and she lied about it. This is not just gonna go away.
Lil Kim is in need of some serious damage control. To a celebrity, image is everything. But when that image is destroyed, can it be rebuilt? You be the judge. Celebrity damage control. Kimberly Denise Jones was just a poor girl growing up on the tough streets of Brooklyn until she branded herself Lil Kim and began associating with some of the hottest up-and-coming rappers in New York. With her hard rhymes, smooth flow, and overtly sexual image, Lil Kim becomes the hottest woman in hip-hop. But her roots in the streets keep her entangled in the same cycle of violence that she fights so hard to escape. Until a feud with fellow rapper Foxy Brown explodes in 2001 into a shootout in downtown New York. Sentenced to hard time for refusing to snitch, Kim faces an uphill battle to get her career back on track. Can she do it? Or will her best efforts at damage control fail to elevate her back to the top of her game? July 11th, 1976. Kimberly Denise Jones is born in Brooklyn, New York, to Linwood and Ruby Jones. Raised in a crime-ridden area of Bedford-Stuyvesant, known as Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, Kim learns from an early age to stand up for herself if she hopes to survive.
Even as a kid, she's both tough and girly. She's a fighter who doesn't back down from anyone, and at the same time, super girly. She's obsessed with fashion, and she loves her hero, Motown legend Diana Ross.
Just 9 years old when her parents separate, Kim and her mother leave Brooklyn to settle in suburban New Rochelle, New York. Though the city is less dangerous than Bed-Stuy, life in New Rochelle proves hard, as Kim's mother struggles to make ends meet.
Lil Kim grew up in a very, very tough environment. Kim's mom, being destitute financially, certainly was very negative for Kim, as it would be for any young girl. Lil Kim and her mother had to sleep in the back of her mom's car. And again, I think this is something that contributed to the toughness that Lil Kim was developing in order to survive in a very difficult and tough world.
When the divorce between her parents is finalized, a judge rules Ruby isn't financially able to care for her daughter, sending Kim back to Brooklyn to live with her father and older brother, Christopher.
Family court judges always look to determine the best interest of the child. And this family court judge decided that it was better for Lil Kim to live in Bed-Stuy, a violent-ridden, crime-ridden community, than it was to live in New Rochelle with their mother, who was almost homeless, who didn't have any money.
In Lil Kim's case, being sent to live with her father, being separated from her mother, is something that can cause a lot of psychological harm. You're talking about separation anxiety, you're talking about depression, you're talking about being, in some ways, removed from that person who has been your reason for living, who shows you how to live as a female, as a girl, as a young woman.
Kim's father is a former Marine officer who applies the same strict discipline he learned in the Corps to the home. This doesn't mix well with Kim's independent streak.
The relationship that a young woman has with her father in many ways becomes the mold that she follows with relationships with other men in her life. So the fact that they had a very combative relationship tells me that it was very easy for her to get involved in very conflicted relationships with men in her life.
Attending Sarah J. Hale High School, Kim establishes herself as a fashion icon among the student body. Her high heels and sexy skirts attracting attention from the boys and nasty looks from the girls. Kim's first brush with love ends abruptly when her high school boyfriend, Sean, is arrested and charged with robbery. When a judge sentences him to 8.5 years in prison, Kim tries to keep the relationship going, even getting engaged while Sean is in prison, but Kim eventually ends things.
Kim dumped her boyfriend. I mean, this girl is tough. She's tiny, but she's really tough, and nothing and no one is going to get in her way.
At home, the tumultuous relationship between Kim and her father only gets worse. When her father remarries, he announces that the family is moving to New Jersey, but tells Kim, who's almost 17, that she's not welcome to join them. Left to her own devices, Kim drops out of school and struggles to get by on the mean streets of New York. Falling in with a crowd that includes prostitutes, drug dealers, and gangsters, she makes friends and money and learns the street code that will dictate her choices for years to come.
Interestingly enough, for Lil Kim, it worked to her advantage. It toughened her up. It gave her the wherewithal to understand the codes of the street and to be able to survive a difficult life.
It's during this difficult time, however, that Kim discovers the talent that will soon transform her world.
I remember, house parties was always a great opportunity for that coming up. That's the beauty with hip hop. You want to show that you're the greatest. You have an opportunity right here, regardless if you're male or female, to take that mic and rip someone's lungs out and be the illest. That's why I love hip hop. Understand what I'm saying?
She really surprised people. I mean, this girl was playing a very rough game in a really rough neighborhood, but she made all the right friends, and they took her under their wing, and they protected her. She had an innate talent, and she was feisty and really entertaining.
By day, she runs errands for drug dealers, hustling to survive. But at night, she's a fixture on the Brooklyn party scene, with a growing reputation as the little lady with the big voice and passionate energy. In 1994, Kim meets the man who will change her life forever. Christopher Wallace, also known as the Notorious B.I.G. or Biggie Smalls, is a local legend in his Brooklyn neighborhood. A former crack dealer turned rapper, Biggie is himself on the cusp of fame when he first hears word of Lil Kim's talent. Intrigued, he tracks her down, introduces himself, and demands an impromptu audition on the sidewalk.
The legend goes when Lil Kim auditioned for Biggie the first time, he was just blown away. I think in his eyes, he really saw the full package of who could become the dominant female MC in the hip-hop community.
Meeting Notorious opened a lot of doors for Kim. He had the street rep of being a really tough guy, so nobody messed with her for fear of what he would do to them.
He realized that this pint-sized woman was an incredible and powerful rapper, and that she had a lot of talent, and knew the kind of guy that he was, that he could make money off of her and with her.
As Biggie begins mentoring Kim on the ins and outs of the hip-hop game, the two also begin a tumultuous romantic relationship, establishing themselves as hip-hop's premier power couple.
He was a mentor, help her get into the big leagues as a rapper, as a talent. So they had a very, very strong connection. So it's not surprising that they became involved intimately, sexually.
With her life getting back on track, Kim returns to high school, taking classes at the Brooklyn College Academy. There, she meets another young woman, beginning to make strides in the male-dominated world of hip-hop. Her name is Inga DeCarlo Fung Marchand. But in just a few years, she'll be known far and wide as Foxy Brown.
For those who don't know, Foxy Brown was, a very talented female MC, from Brooklyn. I think, anytime you have, two artists in a similar genre and, both coming out around the same time, in Foxy Brown and Lil Kim's case, even being friends, I think there's always going to be some similarities. There's always going to be some, trading of styles, but I think they still did have their distinct styles, but at the same time, they both were female MCs coming up at a time when, they both had the opportunity to come out there.
Once again, however, a man in her life causes Kim heartache when Biggie meets up-and-coming R&B singer Faith Evans at a photo shoot and marries her 2 weeks later.
When Biggie married Faith Evans, this was devastating for Lil Kim. This was perhaps the major heartbreak of her life. And one of her friends said she probably would never love like that again.
Despite his new marriage, Kim and Biggie maintain their volatile, often abusive relationship. When Biggie forms a supergroup of rappers from his Brooklyn hood, he selects Lil Kim to be the only female MC in the clique. Dubbed the Junior Mafia, the crew are the latest attempt at chart dominance by Biggie.
Biggie forming, the Junior Mafia group was an incredible idea. I mean, it's a great way to carry the brands forward, to keep at the same time Lil Kim being the sole female artist. I mean, she definitely stood out. It really was an amazing group of artists coming out, and they saw tremendous success under Biggie's guidance.
When the Mafia's first album, Conspiracy, debuts in the top 10, the group is invited to Harlem to perform at the historic Apollo Theater.
Give it up for Lil Kim and Little Caesar, the Junior Mafia.
In a TV performance, Lil Kim steals the show, wowing the notoriously fickle crowd with a star-making performance.
She stood out. Here was this tiny girl surrounded by tough and scary men. She had the voice, she had the feistiness, she had the attitude. It was kind of an in-your-face attitude. And she was in a business that was a man's business, so she really stood out.
Off the streets and on TV screens nationwide, Lil Kim has taken her first steps towards stardom. But the life she left behind will continue to haunt her and threaten to destroy everything she's about to achieve. Overnight, Lil Kim has gone from homeless to the cusp of fame, but her path to stardom has only just begun. As the Junior Mafia becomes a sensation on the hip-hop scene, it soon becomes apparent that Lil Kim is the group's true standout.
I think anytime you have, a sole female artist in a male-dominated group, they inevitably will stand out. But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone could contest her lyrical ability. I mean, she definitely was at the forefront when it came even down to straight lyrics.
Mentoring Lil Kim on every aspect of the business is her not-so-secret boyfriend, hip-hop heavyweight Christopher Wallace, also known as Biggie Smalls.
Just because he was married to Faith Evans, Biggie didn't see a reason why he and Kim should split, just as long as they kept their relationship on the down low.
To rebrand Kim's persona as a true femme fatale, Biggie encourages Kim to sexualize her image, which she does, with increasingly revealing outfits and rap lyrics so explicit they push the boundaries of acceptability. Lil Kim begins to eclipse the rest of the Junior Mafia.
What I liked about Kim was she's real aggressive on the mic, definitely. You can tell by her style and her flow was definitely influenced from Biggie. I mean, she always used to say that too. That was her mentor, and you can hear it. You can tell by her cadence. You can tell by her breath control, and she was dope too.
By 1996, it's clear that her popularity has transcended the group, and she and Biggie make the decision to take her career solo. With the Notorious B.I.G. overseeing every major decision, Kim goes to work recording her debut album. It's while she's in the studio that Kim receives shocking news.
She found out she was pregnant, and of course, she knew exactly who the father was. Biggie, the love of her life. Just one problem, he's married.
When Biggie finds out Kim is pregnant, however, the Big Papa is far from a proud father. Instead, he encourages Kim to have an abortion, arguing that being a single mother will ruin her bold new look and raunchy style that is making waves.
So there comes a time sometimes in a career where you have to make the choice. Do you do what's right, or do you do what's best for your brand? Sadly, most of the time in this business, they do what's best for their brand.
Taking the advice of her lover and mentor, Kim ends the pregnancy and returns to the recording studio. Years later on the song Hold On, Kim would reflect on these events, rapping, "Sometimes I sit and think how it would be if we was married, or if I would have kept the child that I carried."
This was a major devastation in her life, changed her life forever. She lost the man of her dreams and lost the product of the two of them, their baby. But knowing who Kim is, it made her stronger. It made her more calloused. It made her someone who was even more of a warrior, and she was going to overcompensate by turning that pain into power.
As anticipation grows for Kim's debut album, an ad campaign reveals the star in a whole new light.
The album cover for Hardcore could have just as easily been the cover for a porn DVD. This was rap, it was young, it was new, it was breaking all the barriers. As shocking as it was at that time, this is the image that they wanted to bring out. They wanted it to be shocking.
When Hardcore is finally released, it's an immediate smash, going double platinum and spawning 3 #1 rap hits.
Parents freaked out because that's what parents do, but Kim was really making her own way in a male-dominated arena and spreading her own brand of feminism.
It definitely was a game changer. I don't think there was a hip-hop album before that where a female MC had really taken things as far as she did in terms of explicit lyrics, great skills, amazing production. I mean, I think it really set the bar for any hip-hop artist, that came after her.
Though still married to R&B singer Faith Evans, Biggie continues his affair with Kim, while also enjoying flings with various groupies, fans, and other admirers. For Kim, it's a painful situation.
She went from being his partner to basically being his side chick, and this was doubly bad for her because reportedly she was in love with him.
Frustrated by Biggie's refusal to make her his #1 girl, Kim directs her anger at the woman he chooses to love instead. The animosity between Kim and Faith Evans reaches its crescendo following a recording session at Puff Daddy's studio. It's rumored that when an argument between the two women starts, Faith leaves, only to be attacked by Kim, who pulls her from her car, points a gun in her face, and threatens to kill her.
Lil Kim, unfortunately, decided to take an argument to the next level, and she just essentially threatened her life. And because there are so many of these incidences, especially in that community, the authorities don't have the ability to charge everyone with a crime. She got away with that one. That was essentially a crime that she committed, which she was never charged with. So let's call that one strike one, if you will, or some luck she had.
On March 9th, 1997, the turbulent love triangle between Kim, Biggie, and Faith Evans comes to a tragic end when Biggie is killed in a drive-by shooting in Los Angeles. The murder of the Notorious B.I.G. comes at the height of hip-hop's infamous East Coast-West Coast rivalry, and just 6 months after the murder of rapper Tupac Shakur.
I had a house party that night, Brooklyn, so I know exactly where I was when Biggie Smalls died, and you know what I mean? And that was a phase where I felt like, you know what, I don't even want to rap no more, man, because this ain't what hip-hop is about. I remember there was a phase I didn't even feel like scrolling anymore because it was like, this ain't supposed to happen. I think the East Coast, West Coast rivalry, in a lot of ways, represented division, represented a lot of confusion, and it was death to a certain chapter of the genre music.
The death of Biggie sends shockwaves through the hip-hop community, but perhaps no one is more devastated by the loss than Lil Kim, who loses both her lover and her mentor.
Kim's relationship with Biggie was reportedly abusive and violent. At the same time, it's hard to deny what he contributed to her career.
While still mourning the loss of Biggie, Kim comes under fire from civil rights activist C. Dolores Tucker. Tucker brands Lil Kim's album Hardcore as filth and the music a gangsta porno virus as she organizes angry protests against Kim's record company.
I think when activist C. Dolores Tucker started organizing protests, I mean, that was an obvious indication of how far Lil Kim had pushed boundaries with her debut album Hardcore. It really was the first time an artist from the urban community, from the hip hop community, had kind of taken those bold moves, and it's an obvious indication as to why there was so much protest against it.
Determined to end a difficult year on a high note, Lil Kim joins Puff Daddy's No Way Out tour, a tour that ranks among the highest grossing in hip-hop at the time. Sean Puff Daddy Combs encourages Kim to take her raunchiness to a whole new level. To maintain her spot in the public eye while working on her second album, Kim branches out. Using her natural business acumen, she launches her own record label, signs a modeling contract, and lands a deal as the face of Candy's fashion.
She was getting attention, and attention sells products, which is smart. She was capitalizing on that. Going mainstream was a pretty big ambition for a little girl with a dirty mouth, but somehow she was pulling it off.
Kim also goes to Hollywood, taking on her first movie role with a small part in the hit teen comedy She's All That. She later courts tabloid attention by appearing at the Video Music Awards in a designer outfit that leaves very little to the imagination.
Kim learned a long time ago that she could exploit her sexuality. Certainly she was a very pretty girl, and it's rumored that not only was she hanging with a lot of criminals growing up, but she may have prostituted too. So she knew how to exploit her sexuality. She took it to the nth level there, and it was a brilliant marketing move. This established Lil Kim as being a sex goddess.
On June 27, 2000, Kim finally drops her second album, The Notorious KIM, almost 4 years after the release of her debut.
I just remember the album cover. The album cover was dope. I love her album cover, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, that's my girl right there, man. She's dope. See, I'm smiling because I'm just having flashbacks.
She also must face the suggestion from critics that without Biggie, her career is over.
The reviews for this album were not the kindest. Everybody was comparing it to hardcore, and with her calling it Notorious KIM, people were criticizing this, and it just made the lack of him being there more noticeable.
With the new album comes a new look, as Kim takes her desire for mainstream success one step further.
She really was defining herself as an icon, and seeing the brands she was endorsing, like Apple and Old Navy, and at the same time getting more and more into the mainstream, I think she really was on the path to becoming an icon.
With her biggest success just around the corner, a terrible mistake in judgment could end up costing her everything, taking her from the top right back down to the bottom. Although Lil Kim has lost both her lover and mentor, Notorious B.I.G, she continues to align herself with the biggest names in hip-hop, insisting on doing everything her own way. After initially receiving lukewarm reviews, Lil Kim's second album, The Notorious KIM, goes platinum in a matter of months. And Lil Kim is making inroads in Hollywood while modeling for Candies and Versace.
That's great that I can have an impact and be very, noticeable in my style.
She's ready to take her act mainstream.
In her efforts for reinvention and rebranding, she had to look at the fact that her reputation and her brand was very raunchy, and that's not accepted in mainstream society. But Madonna was raunchy and she was accepted, so she went along Madonna's track and tried to brand herself as the Black Madonna.
On February 25th, 2001, Kim's public image changes forever following an appearance at legendary New York radio station Hot 97.
Hot 97 is a huge radio station, and she had just done an interview to promote her album. The problem started when she and her entourage left the station.
According to the initial police report, as Kim's crew exits the station at 3 p.m., they encounter the rapper Capone of the popular duo Capone and Noriega, along with his associates. A verbal argument between the two groups escalates, and guns are drawn. In the ensuing chaos, over 20 shots are fired from 5 different guns. By the time the smoke clears, one man, Capone associate Efrain Ocasio, has been shot in the back. Everyone else involved flees the scene. As the police investigate, hip-hop insiders are one step ahead of the authorities in understanding what transpired. According to the word on the street, the shootout was the culmination of a rivalry between Lil Kim and fellow female rapper Foxy Brown. It's a feud that's been simmering for years.
Looking at their history, both of them growing up together and at the same time coming out when there was that position open to be the dominant female hip-hop MC. Inevitably, competition does ensue when you have two people vying for that #1 spot, and I definitely think the labels and the media as well helped kind of fuel that and saw it as something entertaining.
Although aligned with different cliques, Kim and Foxy rose to fame at the same time, often appearing on the same remixes and magazine covers. Recognized together as the new face of women in hip-hop, there had even been talk of a collaborative album by both women. Their friendly relationship, however, changed forever in November of 1996, when Def Jam, Foxy's record label, made the provocative decision to release her debut album just 1 week after Kim's. New York's two top female rappers became rivals, with the tension between them exploited by their labels for maximum publicity.
Kim was used to being in the lead. She called herself Queen Bee. She took on the Notorious name. She even took on Madonna's persona. So when the studio started pitting the two girls against each other, they got this very public catfight, which brought in more interest, brought in more shock value, and sold a lot more product.
The feud intensified when Bad Boy Records CEO Sean Puff Daddy Combs threw fuel on the fire, rapping on the hit single Play Around by former Junior Mafia star Lil Cease. Combs barked, "Stop trying to sound like her," a line listeners took as an accusation that Foxy was ripping off Kim's style.
Gangster rap is a kind of gang violence, but in the form of poetry, and something like this is not just going to go away because your name and your rep are at stake. They will fight to the end.
Never one to let others fight her battles, Lil Kim stepped up her attack on her second album, The Notorious KIM, addressing Foxy directly on the disc's title track. Lil Kim rapped, "You ain't a star, and your record company know that," adding, "I'm a businesswoman now, so I'm not concerned." Though the feud may have been started by a business decision, it quickly grew personal, with neither rapper shy to diss the other through lyrics.
So when one would come out with a jab, the other one would come out with a left hook, and there's always this competition of who would beat the other. It was pretty spectacular.
Foxy took the feud to a new, more personal level when she dropped a verse mocking Kim's adoration of Biggie and accusing her rival of riding on the dead rapper's coattails. It was the consequences of that verse that came to a head in front of the offices of New York radio station Hot 97 on February 25, 2001.
Foxy's rap about Biggie had appeared on a song called Bang Bang by the hip-hop duo Capone and Noriega, aka one of the guys who showed up to the station just as Kim was leaving.
As is typical in any police scene, the police gather evidence. They take interviews, they try to acquire information. They interview Lil Kim. We don't know whether or not Lil Kim at the time had legal representation, but what she said was, quite frankly, nothing short of stupid. She denied being at the scene of a crime when there's no question that she was there.
Witnesses confirm that Lil Kim was, in fact, present during the shootout. Worse, however, are allegations that some of the shooters may have fled the scene in Lil Kim's limo. When police arrive at Lil Kim's home to question her about the shooting, she denies any involvement and refuses to name any of the associates who accompanied her to the station that day.
If you put it in the context of these inner cities where, people like Lil Kim grew up, I mean, they didn't have positive interactions with police. There was police brutality. A lot of times they didn't feel that police were properly protecting them. So I think, taking that into context, it's understandable why she might have a problem cooperating with police, even in such a public eye.
She probably felt like she's not going to snitch on her people. That compromises her integrity, her street integrity. Her integrity is a part of a team, a part of a squad, who she represented, so she wanted to stay quiet.
As Kim continues lying to investigators over the circumstances surrounding the shooting, she also makes the biggest move of her career. Teaming with pop stars Pink, Christina Aguilera, and Maya, Kim records a cover version of the disco classic Lady Marmalade for inclusion on the soundtrack of the hit film Moulin Rouge. Immediately upon release, Lady Marmalade soars to #1 on the pop charts, with a video featuring the singers as lingerie-clad showgirls. Winning Video of the Year from MTV, the clip introduces Kim to a new, wider pop audience.
I won this time for Moulin Rouge.
She wanted a brand, she wanted to make herself an icon, and this was the best way that she could get out across the world and just really solidify herself as one of the dominant names in hip-hop.
When you're building a brand, sometimes success by association works, sometimes you don't measure up, but in her case, it worked for her. But now she had to clean up her act and step away from the gang. That's easier said than done.
As the investigation into the Hot 97 shooting presses forward, Lil Kim is in a tough spot. Does she continue to lie to protect her crew, or does she shield herself and her career by telling police what she knows? Just as she achieves the biggest success of her career, Lil Kim's long-standing beef with rapper Foxy Brown has turned violent. Now a police investigation threatens to derail Kim's fast track to stardom. As she continues to refuse to cooperate with police, Lil Kim's team makes its first attempt at damage control, releasing a statement to the press. Lil Kim and her security had nothing to do whatsoever with the incident, reads the statement. Kim had no knowledge of any argument nor what instigated the gunfire.
So strike one was Kim lying to the police. Strike two was issuing her own press release claiming she was never there. Strike three we'll get to, but it's a tough way to start at the plate when you have two strikes against you.
I am always surprised when a celebrity comes out and lies to the press. It never, ever, ever works. You just have to either tell the truth or make no comment at all.
Just a week after the Hot 97 shooting, a plea for a truce arrives from a surprising source.
Foxy Brown reached out to Kim and tried to smooth things over. She even told MTV she wanted to meet with Kim and maybe they could finally record that album together.
But Foxy's plea for peace falls on deaf ears, as Lil Kim refuses to respond, thus ensuring the feud will continue.
We'll never really know the reasons why Lil Kim ignored Foxy Brown's plea for a truce. At the end of the day, some of the lines that Foxy Brown was throwing out at Lil Kim to diss her also involved Biggie. Maybe Lil Kim thought she had went too far with that, and at the end of the day, Lil Kim was on a path. She was defining herself as an icon, and maybe she felt it was better to just push forward and not even address the past.
If Kim hopes that by stonewalling detectives, the NYPD will drop the case, those hopes are dashed when federal prosecutors take over the investigation.
Whenever the feds step in, it is without a doubt cause for concern. Any governmental entity, be it state, be it federal, be it an administrative agency, your antennas go up and you have to say, wait a minute, I need counsel, let me not do anything, let me not speak to anyone until I get the proper advice. Lil Kim, I don't believe, did that.
Riding high on the success of Lady Marmalade and refusing to allow the criminal investigation to get in the way of her career, Kim decides to leave the past behind and move on to a brighter future. Taking charge of her independence, Kim severs all ties with the Junior Mafia and focuses on the recording and producing of her next album. It's a bold move, but Kim's never been afraid of change. When she finally drops the disc, La Bella Mafia, in March of 2003, it's an immediate hit. Debuting in the top 5, the disc goes platinum, with the singles Magic Stick and Come Back to You garnering Grammy nominations. 2 years pass since the Hot 97 shootout, and detectives continue to investigate. In June of 2003, federal prosecutors convene a grand jury to determine the involvement of Kim's manager, Damian D. Rock Butler, and her bodyguard, Swift C. Gutta Jackson. Lil Kim is one of the first people called to testify.
So Lil Kim is, of course, faced with a very difficult situation. She can either tell the truth and snitch on her friends, her confidants, her crew, or she can go and protect them, but she's lying to the grand jury. Her decision, unfortunately, which is the decision every time this happens, was wrong. You have to go in and tell the truth. Because if they have concrete evidence that you're lying, that is a felony. And that's exactly what happened to Lil Kim in this instance.
When asked under oath if Butler and Jackson had accompanied her to the station on the day of the shooting, Lil Kim tells the jury she can't remember. When shown a photograph of Jackson, a longtime friend and associate, Lil Kim tells the court she doesn't recognize him. Kim's testimony, however, appears less than credible after security camera footage is revealed, showing Kim traveled with both men that fateful day. In fact, she was standing near Jackson, who she claims not to recognize, when the shooting started.
Here's a little pro tip about testifying in front of a grand jury. Never say anything that can be contradicted by video, because video will always win.
When the grand jury makes its decision on April 14th, 2004, it's bad news for Lil Kim. Not only are Damian D. Rock Butler and Swift C. Gutta Jackson charged with weapons offenses, but Lil Kim herself is indicted on a number of charges, including conspiracy to commit perjury, the making of false statements, and obstruction of justice. If convicted, Kim could face up to 30 years behind bars, effectively ending her career.
It's the worst possible outcome. Not only is she indicted for lying to the grand jury, but it doesn't even help the men she was trying to protect.
She kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper in trouble. We're well beyond the 3-strike system now. We're into 6 or 7 strikes. So it's unfortunate, but it is typical. It's a web you weave, and you end up getting in this spiral which you can't get out of.
Surrendering to federal authorities in April 2004, Kim's lawyer issues a statement claiming Lil Kim's testimony in court has been taken out of context. Lil Kim, he argues, is only being persecuted because she's a celebrity.
She's definitely playing the victim here, but somebody got shot and she lied about it. This is not just gonna go away.
She was getting movie offers, TV offers, and her latest album had been her most successful. If she goes to prison, she jeopardizes everything.
As Kim awaits her trial, Damian D-Rock Butler and Swift C. Gutta Jackson, the 2 men she had lied to protect, both confess to their roles in the shootout. Their sentences are severe, 12 years for Jackson and 10 for Butler. When her trial begins on March 2, 2005, Kim has already pled not guilty to all charges. It's only then that the prosecution drops a bombshell, telling the jury that Butler himself will testify against Kim, admitting under oath that not only did he participate in the shootout, but that Kim had known and deliberately lied to the grand jury.
Butler snitched. She risked everything, and he turned on her in return for a shorter sentence.
Butler isn't the only rapper to testify against Kim. In an apparent violation of the street code against snitching, former Junior Mafia members Antoine Banger Spain and James Little Cease Lloyd also testify to Kim's involvement, as does the target of the shootout, rapper Clam Capone Holly.
We'll never know the full behind-the-scenes story of what happened with Banger and Little C's and accepting plea bargains in their situation, but there was obvious evidence of, hip-hop task units that were going after hip-hop artists. All sorts of things were happening behind the scenes. So it could have been a very simple case of even Lil Kim, being targeted and telling, her fellow label mates, Little C's to, get out of the situation as best as they could, and they just had to do what they had to do.
Then, Lil Kim takes the stand in her own defense.
What happens is the trial changes. It goes from, did the defendant commit this crime, to do I believe the witness on the stand? And if a jury does not believe that witness, then they are sunk. And with Lil Kim, there was such a fodder and such a plethora of cross-examination on her that taking the stand was essentially her death nail. And that's exactly what happened here.
Kim testifies to the grand jury that she was badgered and intimidated by authorities. The stress, she says, caused her to be unable to identify Jackson or remember that Butler had been with her.
Frankly, there's no such thing as the stress defense. It just doesn't exist in the law. She tried to use it because at the end of the day, in a criminal case, you have to show, 1, the person acted, and 2, they did it with some kind of an intent. They're trying to sort of diffuse the intent portion, but you can't say, I was too stressed out. It just was, quite frankly, silly.
Continuing to paint herself as a victim, Kim even distances herself from her hip-hop persona, telling jurors, Lil Kim is my image. That's who I am when I'm rapping. Kimberly Denise Jones is who I am when I go home.
When she tried to separate herself from her image, it was probably because of the makeup in the jury. It is a tough sell to try to come off as the victim when you're known as the queen bee of the gang life.
When the verdict of the jury comes down, Kim is found guilty of perjury, but cleared of the obstruction of justice charges. Despite facing a maximum of 30 years, she'll serve only 1.
She was sentenced to 1 year and a day, and even her sentencing was just full of drama. She was weeping, she was clutching a Bible, she was telling the judge how she was a God-fearing, good person, and this was the toughest thing she had ever been through. Luckily, she had the support of her fans who were out there cheering her on, but the real question is whether she would have their support when she got out.
As she prepares to serve her time, Kim does her best to capitalize on her last moments of freedom, putting the final touches on what will be her 4th album. She also strikes a deal with a cable network and begins filming a reality series about her life as she plans and prepares for her incarceration.
She was, in an unbelievable way, able to capitalize on the fact that she was going to jail. So there she is, a convicted felon who now has a TV show about the days leading up to her sentencing. So it was actually a brilliant marketing move, but on the criminal side, it was nothing short of stupidity.
But as the prison doors close behind Lil Kim, the fact remains that for all her struggles and all her success, the Queen Bee is no longer free. As Lil Kim surrenders her freedom and heads to prison, she's already at work on her damage control. Locked away at the Federal Detention Center in Philadelphia on September 19, 2005, Kim is given the inmate number 56198-054. She promises fans that while incarcerated, she'll continue working on her music. In return, she asks only for their prayers. But even behind bars, Kim is still in command of the spotlight. Countdown to Lockdown, a reality series about Kim's preparation for prison, premieres to record numbers. While her fourth album, The Naked Truth, recorded in the weeks before she began serving her sentence, is released to acclaim. Critics praise it as her bravest, most personal album yet.
Some of the greatest music albums of all time have been by music artists reflecting on personal experiences. So it was a very good move for Lil Kim to address her trial and her controversy on her fourth album, The Naked Truth. I think it was a great way to get it off her chest, and at the same time, it was something that her fans and the industry wanted. So again, even from a commercial level, why not give them what they want?
On July 3, 2006, Kim is granted an early release for good behavior, having served nearly 10 months behind bars. When she emerges from prison in a stylish, low-cut, all-white ensemble, she waves to her fans as she steps into a waiting silver Rolls-Royce.
Kim was really afraid that as she was doing time, that all of the things she had achieved, all of the deals that were in place right before she was going to jail may not be there. She did not want to go back to her beginnings of sleeping in a car, of being destitute, of watching her mother being destitute. Psychologically, all of those forces were at play.
Eager to return to the public eye, Lil Kim makes her first appearance following her release at the 2006 MTV Video Music Awards. Shocking the crowd by appearing on stage in an orange prison jumpsuit, Kim's escorts peel it off as she exclaims, "The girl is back."
If there's anyone who's going to be cheeky about getting out of jail, it's going to be Lil Kim. But this little display aside, she's actually having some trouble getting back into the game.
Brokenhearted and angry that her friend and former mentor Sean Puff Daddy Combs never once visited her in prison, Lil Kim ends her friendship and professional relationship with the hip-hop mogul.
She had always made decisions that would help her career, and she never had a problem leaving people and leaving things behind.
Lil Kim decides to join the judging panel on the talent show Pussycat Dolls Present. After heading to Hollywood to pursue movie roles, Kim stars alongside Naked Gun's Leslie Nielsen, comedian Kevin Hart, and sexpot Pamela Anderson in the spoof superhero movie in 2008. Still committed to her music career, but more determined than ever to maintain control over her sound and image, Kim releases her fifth recording, Ms. GOAT, on her own independent label.
Lil Kim releasing her mixtape, Ms. GOAT, Greatest of All Time, was a fantastic way for her to reconnect with her fans and with the industry. Had an amazing DJ named DJ Who Kid from New York supporting it, which brought a lot of credibility, and it was quite positively reviewed by the hip-hop community and her fans.
In 2009, Kim joins the cast of the top-rated primetime television smash, Dancing with the Stars, competing alongside Denise Richards, Playmate Holly Madison, and Apple founder Steve Wozniak. Kim stuns audiences with her moves.
Dancing with the Stars is the perfect vehicle for celebrities that want to come back. It's all glitz and glitter. You see none of the dirty, dark side, and you gain a whole new audience.
As a new generation of female rappers inspired by Lil Kim and Foxy Brown begin dominating the charts, Kim is adamant that she won't be forgotten.
2006, I was released from prison. So, but I think it was the best thing that happened to me. I got to really find out who I was, and I got to find out what I wanted to do.
Good luck to you. The possibilities are endless, so good luck. Thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you.
Lil Kim has remained firmly in control of her look and image, even when that means undergoing extreme plastic surgery to achieve the look she desires. Never shying away from a challenge, Lil Kim continues to push herself in a variety of directions, from writing to her music to motherhood.
Lil Kim definitely reopened the doors for female MCs. Understand? Her whole energy. She's a star, man. I was about to say was, but nah, she is a star.
I think she will be forever known as a trailblazer who brought rap to the masses, but most importantly, as a female role model.